Welcome to the Obstacle Dominator podcast, the show for athletes who want to become their best and inspire others in the process. Here we're going to dive deep into training tactics, race strategy, nutrition, mindset, and everything required to dominate the course and your life. Whether you're tackling your first race or already standing on podiums, this is where you can level up. There is always room for improvement, and it is time to push through those barriers and step it up a level, breaking both the physical and the mental walls to keep progressing. I'm your host, Matt Roberts, OCR athlete, coach, and guide to those committed to becoming healthier, happier, stronger, faster, to maximize their human potential now and always. I'll also be joined by the coaching team who are walking the walk, competing, staying current, and holding themselves to excellence. They are leading by example to inspire others to rise. We also bring on guest speakers who share real stories, real lessons, and proven methods that deliver results in performance, health, and mindset. Let us begin. Yeah. Welcome back, Shawn. We're here for another podcast episode. I think you've been on a few now, right?
Yeah, this is my third.
You become an Obstacle Dominator podcast veteran. I'm not quite sure who's on the leaderboard. I know Jake Clark's been on it a few times. Jack Coates has certainly been on it a few times. So you might be up there with the most amount of viewings on here, which is good. So I really wanted to take this opportunity to have you back on and chat about what's new. And since you were on last, there's been a lot more changes and a lot more improvements, successes with your racing, and actually some of which in the last few weeks, last month or so as well. So I want to take the opportunity to speak about that, speak about what's changed, what's new, and really the direction you go in now, heading into the last part of the year, and what's set for you in 2026 as well.
Yeah, I got my goal sheet right there. Gonna look at it every day. So where to start? Things are unlocking right now. Like it's more than just like a linear progression for me right now. In fact, I would say it's been a very slow transition. Things like running speed and mobility, grip strength, shoulder strength. I mean, there's just been some things really holding me back. And the challenge for me is understanding what's mental and what's physical. And I guess, I mean, to really understand that context, for those that don't know, I was in a car wreck 25 years ago, and it completely crushed my left leg. And I had 4 compound fractures. My knee was torn completely off. It was pretty bad. And I spent a year bouncing between, no weight bearing to a wheelchair, to a walker, to crutches for a long time. And even for 3 or 4 years after that, I had this like big pronounced limp. It was a pretty traumatic injury. And during all that, the doctor told me I would never run again at the risk of hurting my leg or making things worse, I guess, in the knee. 5 knee surgeries later, I kept trying to run. I kept blowing my knee out. 5 knee surgeries later is where I'm at now. And when I go to run, I don't have full flexion of my my calf, or my foot doesn't pull all the way back. It only pulls to about here. So I'm not able to go up hills without turning my foot outside or doing it on my toes. And so that obviously affects my running motion and my stride length, and my glutes aren't activating on the left leg very well. My hip is kind of overcompensating on the right side. There's just all kinds of stuff going on there that was complicated for me to understand. And for about 6 months into this program with Primal, my running speed progression was coming along really slow. And I don't think I could work harder. I was trying, and it I'm averaging 14, 15-minute miles, and I felt like that was as much as I could do, but I'm not accessing very high up into zone 3. I'm not even able to access zone 4. Certainly I'm not touching zone 5. So a big part of my training was just getting left behind, and it wasn't progressing. So I went to see a local running coach. Dude was amazing. He looked at my shoe and told me what my problem was. It was really, really cool. The guy was just brilliant. And he did a full analysis, an assessment of all of my measurements and capabilities. And then, of course, I sent that over to Coach Chin, and he and Dr. Murphy kind of put together this plan, and I've been following that plan, along Coach Chin's guidance ever since. Well, meanwhile, Coach Chin is struggling with me because he keeps trying to set my paces based on my last time trial or last MAF run, and all of a sudden my zone two runs are getting faster than my last time trials. It's like all of a sudden my stride has opened up, and my mobility and my glutes are now activating better. My stride length's getting better. Plus my steps per minute has increased from 130 up to 160. So I'm inching closer and closer and closer to where I want it to be. But some of that along the way was my brain telling me I can't do it. I can't push harder. This hurts. And I'll feel a little, pain in my knee, and I'm like, oh, I better slow down. I can't push it that hard. I got to slow down. It's gonna, blow my knee out again or something. So just kind of balancing that mechanical versus physical limitations is where I was. Now, a couple of months into this, I'm much more body aware, and I'm able to push past those pains because I know that they're nothing serious, and access zone 4 and into zone 5 now. And it doesn't scare me. I have no emotional, fear of it. And now I'm able to get down into that pace that I'm starting to feel like I'm actually running fast. And God bless Coach Chin, because he's having trouble keeping up with how fast I'm accelerating in a couple of these areas. So it's been cool. And I've also kind of turned into a data geek too. So I'm like looking at the data in every run, trying to figure out, what's improved, where I need to work. I use these stride pods I put on my shoe that measures ground contact time, vertical oscillation, power output, all that kind of stuff is really, really interesting to me.
Yeah, love it. I know you're very data driven.
Well, AI is kind of one of my, part of my profession. So
that is very cool as well, having that perspective of it as well. Because one of the guys, in fact, he's also very data driven. He's in the UK. He actually started to create an app to put like Strava, Garmin, Whoop, Aura Ring, all these things in one place, and he's actually also making like an offering to these companies saying, hey, like there's got to be more dudes like me that want to pull data from all of these ones and centralize it. So it's super useful. I was also having a conversation with Greg. Greg's going to be on the podcast in due course, but we were chatting yesterday about the intuitive side of training as well, because it's like we have all these beautiful tools and resources and the data that it gives us to really empower us to kind of compare where we were to where we are and where we want to go, and also comparing that to other people for in a beneficial way, but then also talking about the intuitive approach of like really checking in with ourselves. Because when I used to use Whoop frequently, it was like, yeah, you feel good to go, like you've got a green recovery, but I feel like absolute shit. Me and the coaching team are going to do a podcast on like the energy systems, and also like parts of the physicality being like nervous system, the physical body, also mental fatigue and stress, and all these things. We'll dissect it down, because that's another big important part, rather than just getting sucked into the data and then actually we run ourselves into the ground. But equally, it could say, oh, you've got a really good recovery score today, a really bad recovery score today, but you actually feel really good. Then you can exploit that, or at
Yeah.
least be empowered to
Hey,
do
just
what
an
you want with
FYI,
it. So
you're a
it's
little
super
glitchy.
useful.
Vocals are kind of stalling out a little bit, and
What
videos kind
I'm
of stalling a little bit on your side.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'll stop the recording. I'll save this part, and I'm just going to tweak some of the things on it, just to make sure that we're good, and then we'll persevere. So, Sean, what I want to go over now is actually talking about your year of racing. So, when we recorded this episode last, was actually talking about well, the goal, and that was to complete a beast or bust, and that's actually what we called the podcast episode. So, yeah, if you can talk me through your year, the races you've done, what's worked, what hasn't, what you've learned along the way, and then we'll
Yeah.
move
My
next.
original goal was beast or bust. And I started that in January 2024. That's what brought me to Primal and and really kind of just unlocked all my potential here. And I completed that. That was awesome. And then in 2025, my goal transitioned to a trifecta weekend. I mean, 2024 was a trifecta season. 2025, it was a trifecta weekend. I just completed that 3 weeks ago. I mean, for me, coming from where I was, kind of recovering from, a lot of stuff. I mean, it's just been a long journey. I was 296 pounds a year and a half ago, and I'm down to 208 today. Hit my lowest weight. Um, and it just coming from where I was, which was very not mobile, not athletic, to being able to recover from doing a beast on a Saturday to doing a super and a sprint on Sunday. Man, oh man, I am so proud of that goal. Like I really just, I just like, I can't even believe I was able to do that. And we were just talking about data. Whoop said I was at 1% recovered on day 2 when I'm supposed to go out and do the super and sprint. Data is important, but it's not telling the whole story, right? It doesn't know what's in here. And it doesn't speak to how much you have in your gas tank. It speaks to the parameters that it sees, and that's all it is. It's a guide. So I blasted through the super and the sprint. I felt pretty good about them. Did my recovery week. Felt a little lost because I didn't have a goal to chase. I was I hit my goal. Now what? I talked to Coach Chin about it. I just felt like my workouts weren't even like motivated. Like I needed something to chase. And I don't know why I'm wired that way. I just feel like a greyhound. If you open the gates, if it doesn't have a rabbit to chase, it's not going to run down the track. It's just going to wander around. I felt like I was wandering. So I needed that rabbit. So I finally have it. I finally figured out what I want to do. Since 2024 was 3 races in 1 year, and 2025 was 3 races in 1 season or 1 weekend, 2026 is going to be 3 trifecta weekends. So my A races will be 3 trifecta weekends. I've got a few other B races that I want to put in there. I don't care if I hit those or not. It's really all about doing 3 trifecta weekends for me. That would just feel like an amazing accomplishment, and I'll be really proud of that. And also, this because you talked me into it. I'm going up to competitive. I'm going to step into age group. I looked at a bunch of people's times in my age group, and they're a lot faster than me. I got some work to do. I don't have time to be running penalty loops this time. I got to get through these obstacles. So I feel challenged. I feel a little scared. I'm motivated. I'm excited. So let's go. And Coach Chin wanted me to take it easy for a couple months. I'm like, no, man, put the pressure on. Let's do it. Let's go.
This is phenomenal. I mean, like, yeah, just thinking back to our first conversations, which I know we often speak about, but it's such a contrast to where you're at right now, and also the direction you go in as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. That conversation we had was just, I mean, I was at my lowest point, man. I had just completed a super in West Virginia that literally had me in tears, man. I barely finished that. And I knew that there was no way I was going from the super in West Virginia to a beast in 4 weeks. There was just no way I was going to make that kind of transition. And I mean, I couldn't have been more appreciative of our conversation where you just said, look, let's do an assessment. Let's see where you are. And I'll be honest with you. If we need more time, I'll tell you. And that's what we did. We needed 4 more weeks, but still, I mean, being able to go from where I was at that West Virginia Super to the Beast in South Carolina in 8 weeks was pure magic. I mean,
Mm.
hard work on my part, but man, it was just, I mean, to do that without injury. And I think that's what I'm the most appreciative about being here is we've protected me from injury. And I couldn't be more appreciative of that.
Awesome. And how much of this do you believe to be mental barriers, limitations, or how much do you put on it as being like a physical thing?
Yeah, that's a big one for me, Matt. Um, I don't know how to answer, to be honest. There is a mental component that's holding me back. I mean, it really, really is. I still see myself as the old fat guy. I still see myself as, one misstep away from an injury that sets me back. I'm still afraid. I run afraid. I compete on the trails afraid. Um, there is a fear component to it that I'm constantly in a fight with. Um, on the other hand, I think that's why I'm so, you know, immersed in the data, because the data is telling me something else. The data is telling me a story of progression and growth, and I'm trying to listen to the data and not the stuff in my head. Um, so for sure, there are mental limitations that I'm trying to push through, um, because there are physical limitations that I'm trying to train through and grow.
Yeah, for sure. And all of this is a progressive thing. And that's why it's so good just to, well, alleviate any self-induced pressure by having an action plan, but something that's simple, realistic, has the data to back it up, to understand where we're at, to understand how far it is to get to where we want to go, and reassure us along the way as well. I had a lady speak to me after the world champs that we attended, and she was like, Matt, I really want to move up to elite level racing. So similar conversation as to what we've had, because like it's exactly the same. It's just a notch up, and it's very common for us to have these limiting beliefs. Am I good enough? Can I do this? And can I do that? And I got an injury and I got this. It's like, well, regardless of all of that, like let's try. Let's get after it. And like you said, like do some assessments that will give you a very realistic snapshot of where you're currently at, and then it's like, okay, well, is this realistic? Is this not? If it is, then let's fucking go for it. Like let's what we holding around for? Like now's the best time ever, and it's just like, well, with the right amount of time, with the right amount of process, you can work through the limitations, either ones that have been imposed on us or ones we impose on ourselves. Then what tends to happen is we build more momentum as we have the physical breakthroughs, we have the mental breakthroughs, and vice versa. And then when we start to gain this momentum, it's kind of where you're at. It's like, this feels so good, I don't want to stop.
Yes, it is. It's addicting. One thing that helps me is seeing my workout blocks. Like, I'll see a workout block and I'm like, when Coach Chin first opens it up and I can see the block and I go, okay, I got goodbye legs coming up, right? It's pyramid workout. And I go, oh my God, that's going to suck. That's going to suck bad. And then the second or third time I do it, it's like, it's like an RPE 6. I don't even feel like it's pushing me in the same way it did at first. And then I remember like how hard that was to how easy this is. And then I see the progressions and, less recovery time and, more weight progressions, and I get PRs, and like, it's just so much to build on that it does take the mental blocks out of it. Like my brain is telling me I'm not good enough, but I know from the data and from the workout blocks, and I know that I'm progressing. Um, so it just, it's, it's, it's a cool place to be right now. I just feel good about it.
Mm, yeah, it really is. It really is. Something popped up for me there because earlier you were speaking about like a lot of fear, and inevitably there's still going to be fear because all you've really done in essence is, well, you've set goals, you've closed in towards them, you've then overcome them, but then you've now replaced what you had fear around with more fear, but you've grown along the way. So the bar's raised, but in essence, the fear's still there. It just looks slightly different because it's a
Yeah.
bigger challenge.
I had a high school swim coach, um, Coach Jenny Oberhausen. We called her Obi. Um, she set this standard in us that I've always had in my head that just always stayed with me. She said, do you love to win or are you afraid to lose? And everybody on the team seemed to say, I love to win. And I said, I'm afraid to lose. And I think me and two other guys, maybe one other guy, said we were afraid to lose. And she goes, explain that. I was like, well, everybody loves to win, but I'm afraid to lose. Like I can't lose. Like I don't know how to. I don't want that. Um, and she goes, because fear is a bigger motivator. And that always set me up for setting a goal that doesn't seem possible, just slightly out of reach. And then I will put it out on paper or tell a few people about it and build some accountability into that direction that I want to head, that goal that I want to accomplish. And then it becomes locked in. I can't not do it. You talked to me after West Virginia. I kept telling you, I was like, I don't want to quit this, but I don't know how to go forward. And that was like just such a lost moment for me.
Yeah, it's really, really fascinating. I love what you just mentioned there because if we've never had a level of success that we aspire to have, often what can happen is there can be self sabotage that comes in because we fear that success so much that there'll be things from the external environment, there'll be other people, there'll be whatever, there'll be challenges that arise, but seeing them as opportunities to go through them, grow through them, and ultimately rise versus allowing them to suppress ourselves. Um, you've probably heard of this before. I think I've heard it from Tony Robbins, but the word fear, if you break that down into like an anagram as such, is like false expectations appearing real.
Mm,
Yeah, so we're placing a bunch of expectations on ourselves, on the goal, everything like that, versus removing the expectations and using everything that we've mentioned, using intuition, using the data, enough time, enough consistency, being realistic around the whole thing rather than use the example of you like wanting to do the beast. I got 4 weeks. Help me. I was like, well, it's kind of a little bit unrealistic. Well, you could probably do it, but is it going to be constructive to do so? So I think what I want to offer to, well, us in this conversation, but people listening as well, is check in with ourselves. Like if we're faced with fear, sit with that feeling, sit in that discomfort, and explore what that is, where that comes from, why that's present. If it is present in a particular area, like how is that affecting you? And then you can really check in with yourself and go, is this real or is this actually something that's been like made up? And then it's been amplified by other things. And whenever I find that I sit with things versus avoiding them, it's like, oh shit, I've got this race coming. I've got to make sure that I train. And then, oh shit, I've got to take the kids to school and I've got to go and do this. And before you know it, one training program session is slipped off the calendar and so on and so forth. And it's like, shit, now I'm really unprepared for this race and whatever. I know it's not really an example in your case, but then that can build the fear more, which will feed the fear more versus actually sit in the fear, sit in the discomfort and explore it with curiosity. And then what happens more often than not is it just dissipates.
yeah,
It's
so
not
spot
actually a
on.
thing.
And that actually, there's a science behind that. If you look at what happens in the brain when we sit in our pain or we sit in our fear, we sit in that negative emotion, I mean, there's a brain science, there's a brain thing that happens with synapses actually forming the proper circuitry to teach you resilience, and it gives you some future familiarity. I've been here before. I know I can get through this.
Mm.
If our lives were easy, we would all be very weak. It's
Mm.
it's it's through challenges and pain and going through tough processes and tough things that ultimately make us more resilient.
100%. 100%. It's all happening for us, and that's another reframe to, oh, why is this happening to me? And adopting that victim mentality. Like I've done a bit of work on myself over, I'd probably say the last year more so, but I wrote about it on social media. But it's like shifting to gratitude and thanks versus like casting blame or having resentment for situations, experiences, people, all these sorts of things. And it's super powerful. So instead of feeding the negative with the negative, like sit in the pain, allow it to be processed. And what comes out the other side is the thanks and the gratitude. And like for you as well, it's like, well, yeah, I was in this car wreck. Actually, I'm fucking grateful for just being able to get over that finish line. I'm thankful for being able to do multiple races. I'm thankful for doing the trifecta, and it's like age group competitive, and it's this and this and this and this. So that positivity breeds more positivity, and yeah, the sky's the limit, or is it? I don't know. We could push that
Yeah,
limit as well,
that's
but
that's the fun part about being where I'm at now is I really don't even know where I want to go right now. Like I know what 2026 is, and I think I got a good feeling for where I want 2027. I'll be 60 in 2027, and looking at that age group, dude, I'm gonna own it. I just feel like that's gonna be my time. I can't wait. Yeah, you know, I want to go backwards for a second because we're talking about sitting in the fear. There's also something important in addition to that, at least for me. All of my first 30, 40, 50 runs that I did on this team um, were traumatic for me. I had emotions going into them. I had fear. Everything was a PR. Like I've never ran this far in my life. I've never ran this fast in my life. I haven't sprinted since I was probably 8 years old. Like when's the last time, I haven't sprinted. So like every week I was going through these runs, I would get anxiety going into them. I would have all kinds of aches and pains throughout the run that I felt like I needed to tell Coach Chin about. This hurt, that hurt, this hurt, that hurt. Um, so what I started doing is I started journaling after the runs. I started just writing it down. My right hip hurt. My quads hurt by this time at mile 2.5. My quads were on fire. Um, Next day I woke up. Both ankles were sore, and I started just journaling the pain, the negatives. But I did that because I was putting mile markers at 2.5 miles, at 3.5 miles. And then all of a sudden, I would go 4 miles before that pain started. All of a sudden, I'd go 6 miles before that pain started. And I taught myself that pain was just part of the process, but it was expanding longer and longer and longer. And I sort of learned not to be afraid of the pain, to expect it. But I also knew that I was leaving it behind. Like it was not as intense, and it was taking longer and longer and longer to get there.
for sure, for sure. And this is why it's an important reason to track and log and journal and reflect, because I think had you had not done that journaling and put the mile markers on it, maybe all you would have been experiencing was, oh, I'm just experiencing pain. Oh, I'm running, I'm experiencing pain, but not actually having the markers in there to show the progress and the improvements.
Yeah, no, that was a really important part of my growth. And I don't journal I don't journal in the same way anymore. I journal more the appreciative side of the journal. Like I've sort of flipped it. When I do journal, it's more like what I took from the experience. Like I wrote something the other day, the only one on the trail. Um, I went out on Eagle Creek at I think 8 o'clock in the morning because I was trying to simulate my super, which was going to be an early morning super. I haven't chosen to run that early before. Normally, I try to choose 10:30, 11 o'clock, and so I wanted to carb load 3 hours before the run. I wanted to go as close to the simulation as I could. And I was really wrapped up in the process, um, of what I'm going to eat, when I'm going to eat, how I'm going to, warm up for it, what I'm going to do. And I was so wrapped up in the process. All of a sudden I get out on the trail and I realize that I'm cold. Like my body's cold. It was colder than I'm used to running. And I started feeling like I haven't been out on a trail this early. I haven't been out on a trail this cold. It sounded different. It smelled different. There was a moisture in the air that felt different. And all of a sudden I became so in the moment, and I realized nobody else is here. And I started seeing the fog coming up off the water of this lake that you run around. And I started hearing the trees, and like, man, oh man, I was the only one on the trail. And that became so powerful to me that, like, I want to do it again and again now. Like that's now my new run time if I get the choice.
100%. There's a couple of things I want to dive into there, because you've highlighted some really, really important points. And actually, I remember having conversations with you at West Virginia about this, about the reframing process. And often what we get people to do, and like you were doing, it's like, okay, what's not working? And then you write this massive list of all the shit, all the things that are not working, all the things you're pissed off of about, have a good vent, put it all on paper or vocalize it. But then what you do is you reframe that. Okay, so what's the opposite of that? What's the positive of that? So I don't want this. So what do I want? And then that is just such a positive thing, because it's like, you know what you don't want. And with that, you can find out what you do want, which is the opposite side of the spectrum. So rather than being in this negative state, it's actually reframing it into something that's positive and constructive that you can really use. And it's exactly the same for the race experience. Of chatting to a few guys about that, it's like, if you have a shitty race, use the experience. Use the experience as an opportunity to improve and grow furthermore. And I really like what you were saying about, like, when I'm 60, that's going to be my best year racing. So already you're planting the seeds now for that.
Yeah.
But also you have the understanding that it's gonna take time. Like, you've come a long way. You're going to go a long way. Just need to keep doing what you're doing, but being realistic with the amount of time that it takes to do that. And then I just want to touch on what you're saying about the running and being present. I mean, we talk about it in the context of racing quite often, but that's all that we have. All that we have is this present moment. So do the best that we can. I mean, we have the data to show where we are. We have the plan to show the map of where we want to go. But ultimately, it's the process of being present in each moment once you have the plan that allows you to do things the best as possible. And also have enjoyment as well. Like when you're out on the trail and you're like, wow, it's actually really beautiful here. Like, and it's just me. And I get to do this. It's just a really, really powerful thing.
Yeah. Anytime I find myself on a trail alone or in the gym, with not very many people, it becomes more than the experience was intended for me, just because I start looking at the scenario and getting sort of lost in that moment of, it's just me. There's nobody watching. There's nobody to compete with. There's nobody else that's crazy enough to be out here this early. Um, it just becomes more powerful, and I get like massive energy from it.
Yeah, it's incredible. Um, So I know we briefly touched on like what's ahead. Like, the goal is to do multiple trifecta weekends next year. I know you've got a number of other races, and also you want to step up and be in the age group competitive heats as well. What do you feel like the driving force is for that?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one, Matt. I just finished my 7 levels, um, which, if people aren't doing the 7 levels, do them. And I'm going to tell you, don't just do it once, do it every year. This is my second time through it, and my my first 4 or 5 levels were pretty much the same as they were last year, but all of a sudden it just completely flipped on me. The first time I went through the 7 levels, it was my whys. What do I want? Why do I want it? My whys were really self-focused. It was performance related. Why do I want it? Because of what I used to be. Because I used to be an elite athlete. I want to get back to that. I felt like I needed to get back to that point. I don't need that now. That's not my why. That disappeared. I put it down. I had it written out, but then I started thinking about it. Is that really what I'm trying to chase? And it wasn't. Um, it was my kids. I'm about to cry. Like my kids. Like I don't need to be an elite athlete. I just want my kids to see my journey and gain from it and be able to take my journey and create their own journey with the confidence to know that their dad did this. Their dad did something hard. Their dad used to do hard things. That their dad went on this really tough journey and overcame some really tough obstacles. And this has nothing to do with freaking Spartan, man. This has everything to do with life. And when they grow up, they're going to have a model that they'll teach their kids. So this became my whys has nothing to do with me at the end of the whys. It had everything to do with my wife and kids being able to live my legacy.
100%. Yeah, I also vouch exactly the same for doing the 7 levels deep process myself. Yeah, because often what we believe the reason or reasons why we do things is definitely not that. I actually done a presentation for about 15 teenagers this morning, and they are in a college to go into the military. And I pulled up the 7 levels deep because I was like,
Yeah.
do you even know why you want to do what you want to do? So I gave him this exercise, and I know that it will bring them clarity and actually a deeper understanding. But then I related it to like being on a 10-day training exercise and there's snow on the ground and it's -8 conditions and you're trying to dig a hole and there's a massive rock there and you're hungry and you're tired, and it's like you have the powerful reason why, and also understand the driving forces being pleasure, reward, and also pain of not achieving that. You can tie all of these things together versus not having any of that. And I think for many of us, I've certainly spoke to a lot of people over the years that they're just like, oh yeah, I want to go and run this ultra or I want to do this race because I just feel like I want to do it. That's
Yeah.
that's not a reason why, and it's not powerful enough. But if you align all of these driving forces and have a real powerful driving force when you're in that pain cave and every ounce of your body hurts and you want to quit and you're hungry and you're wet and you're cold and you're thinking fuck this, you think bigger picture. And like you said, like kids, and one thing that I do is imagine that I'm being witnessed by them in those moments, and it's like,
Dude.
all right, like this is going to carry me. Like, how do I want to be viewed? How do I want to be remembered by them? What is this action, or what are these actions going to do to construct their life, and how are they going to pass that on to their children, and how are they going to pass that on to their children's children? Far more powerful than going, yeah, I just kind of want to do it for the crack.
Yeah. I mean, I started my process. I mean, I think about like, I sort of picture myself, carrying that damn bucket, you know, or one of the sandbag carries where they have you going up a hill and it's just grueling. And I start thinking to myself, am I carrying this sandbag because I want to be an elite athlete? No, screw the bag, screw the sandbag. I don't want it that bad. Um, but when you're in those moments and you're doing something really tough, you've got to remember to go back to your why. You got to picture their faces. You got to picture your kids. Whatever it is that's driving you, you've got to bring that right there. And it makes it impossible. You can't slow down. You can't quit. You got to keep pushing. And if it's not powerful enough, then maybe you've got the wrong goal. Lighten up. You know,
mm,
I
mm.
coached a high school
And yeah,
swimming and
again,
wading
it
team
just
for
goes back
18
to the
years.
assessments,
We had
doesn't it?
multiple teams, and I used to always ask my athletes, do you, do, do you, what are your goals, right? And so if your goal is really high, then I've got to push you really hard. If your goal is to just have fun this season, then I'm not going to push you as hard. Um, and if I'm pushing you super hard and you're getting burned out and your driver isn't strong enough to help you get there, or to encourage you to get there, then let's lessen the goal. It's okay. There's no judgment. Maybe you don't have to win state. Maybe you just make it to state, or whatever it is. Like, it's okay to have lesser goals, but you just want to make sure that you're comfortable. Your why is strong enough to get you to your goal. And as a coach, you need to understand how hard you're pushing people, and not push them beyond, but at the same time encourage them to keep setting tougher goals. And it's sort of a delicate balance between pushing somebody and pulling them. Uh-oh. You've locked up, Matt. Yeah, you're locked. You went 10 seconds.
Sorry, last thing I heard was encouraging them to push for bigger goals.
Yeah, I lost you for about 20 seconds there, but yeah, I was just saying it's a delicate balance between pushing and pulling. Like, you want to push people to achieve hard things, but at the same time, you don't want to be pulling them along.
Yeah, agreed. Because it's a long-term thing, isn't it? And we want to keep in the game. Actually, the call I took with the team before this is it's the consistency over the long term. And if we are crossing over the threshold too often for too long, eventually that's going to lead to burnout. And I've personally experienced this. What you mentioned about the coaching and how to get the best out of an athlete over the long term. And really, if we push them too hard, then it might just be a matter of time before they burn out. And I've certainly been there myself, where I'm trying to work on myself as an individual, be a dad, run a business, be an athlete, coach people, all these things, as well as doing a 9-month race season is not sustainable. So it's finding balance, isn't it? But also, I think the key thing I took from what you were saying there is like listening to the athlete. So you might have one that's like, hey, I just want to have some fun this year. Honor that. Hey, I want to go and like really push myself this year. Honor that. But where things can go wrong is well, I see the potential in you this year, so I'm really, really going to push you, but you don't want it. So actually, it's got to be down to the individual. And when we talk about like the 7 levels deep exercise, this is the thing to really highlight. Do I want this right now, or is this kind of a next year thing, or whatever? And that's really, really important to understand the individual, because if there's a high level of willingness and they're more bought into it, they have more of a desire to achieve that, the more likely you're going to do that. I mean, you would have heard it before, something to do with like consistency or hard work beats talent. Yeah, because if a talented person is complacent, or if they don't do the training that's necessary, the person that's got more work drive and more consistency through training and enough time is going to beat the person who doesn't want it. So there's quite a few factors to consider, but all are important. But I think ultimately it's listening to the individual to get the most out of them.
I think one thing that is, I don't know, overlooked. One thing that's really stressed a lot in the group is the reframing. And yeah, you and I talked about it, but I don't think it can be stated enough how important it is to reframe. You know, like just the other day on a coaching call, I started talking about how I didn't feel like my assessments went well. Like I expected more out of my grip strength and my shoulder strength, and all of a sudden I got checked out, or I got checked. I was like, wait a minute, you did this, you did this, you did this, you did this. Yeah, it was only 18 seconds on your single arm grip, but it was 11 seconds just a couple months ago, right? That's progress. Progress is progress. I'm like, all right, that's true. And so, what do I have to thank for that? I have Coach Tim putting my daily G to G's in for my grip strength now. because the thing is, if you want something, you just have to practice. I really haven't practiced grip strength other than my upper body workouts, one workout a week. So why was I expecting more out of that? So now it's in my daily workouts. So
Yeah, yeah, and obviously there is an absolute cap on how much we can achieve as an individual, but this is often a lot more than we can ever imagine. And with the right training stimulus and the and adequate recovery and time and consistency, you can achieve a lot more than we believe or think. And this is what the guys are doing at the top of their game. They've done things right consistently for many years, and we're always stressing look at things in the context of years, but also focus on the here and now and enjoy the process as well. Because I think the fitness industry, especially in the past 5 years, has done things wrong by going, hey, jump on the 21-day program or 6-week challenge or whatever. And it's like you see these before and after results, and then there can be a bunch of expectations with it, but you're not that person. Like, so who knows? That's not to say that things aren't effective. I mean, we can create change in a matter of weeks. We can immediately level up by just incorporating a few different strategies. Like, we got something we call like the immediate performance enhancers, and as soon as you come in, you get them and you level up without actually doing anything. You're just in proximity to it. But teaching people how to sustain those and build on those really takes time. Um, and doing the basics and doing them well long enough, and that's all I really do, is I just do the fundamentals and continue to work on them, and minimal effective dose. Where does that take you over years? And we was also talking about on the coaching call just before this, like the ebbs and flows of too much intensity, like doing too many races or pushing too hard because you've got a goal that's on the horizon, versus actually over the next few months as we go into the off season, just maintain the momentum you've got and just focus on small progressions rather than taking big leaps. Because often what we don't see is actually when we get into the thick of it, of another competitive season, how mentally taxing that is, how physically taxing the training is. Then you've got the whole logistics, the planning, the traveling there, the nutrition, everything's got to be executed perfectly, really, or as well as we can. We don't want to be stressing ourselves out anymore. So it is setting the longer term goals, understanding we can create change here and now, but it takes time for really the refinements to take place. And yeah, it gets harder as time goes on to make more changes. But like you said, like, well, I stuck to my training. I'm now doing G to Gs and I've added a bunch more seconds onto our hang time. Phenomenal. What does that look like in another year? Is that another 5 seconds? Great. Imagine adding 5 seconds on every year, or 5 seconds this year and 3 seconds next year and 2 more the next. It all adds up with consistency, but often, and this is talking about the mindset piece, we often as humans have a bias towards negativity. So we look at what's not working and what didn't work, or oh, I didn't do so well there, versus like you just done the reframe. It's like, well, actually, I didn't do as well as I wanted. However, I've still improved, and it's far more constructive.
progress sometimes, man. We put expectations on ourselves that aren't fair sometimes, and I think that's, again, kind of going back to the data for me. Data can tell you where you've been, and it can tell you, sort of trending where you're going. But I am not convinced that data can tell me where I am. And that's the problem I have with the data. And Whoop is a good example of that. It can tell me I'm at 1% and I'm going to run a super and then a sprint that day. I wasn't at 1%. I can promise you that. It's just like our brains. Our brains can lie to us. Our brains can tell us that we're not ready for something. But if your why is out there and you're strong enough to push hard and push through where your brain says your limit is, you'll find you got a whole lot more in that gas tank than you ever thought.
100%. 100%. It's just putting all these different factors together, isn't it? And it's not something you just go yoink and then they're in. Actually, it takes a period of time just to kind of connect the pieces, lay out the jigsaw puzzle, fill in the blanks, and then it's, like we just said, the constant refinement of that.
Do you know we do something as a team that that I find comforting to me. Like it helps me relax my anxiety, and it's the whole go slow to get fast mentality. Um, when I hear go slow to get fast, it makes me feel more comfortable. Like I don't have to go out there and run fast to be fast. I don't have to work hard. I don't have to like do something really, really hard one time and two times and three times, and all of a sudden I'm way better. It is literally just a very slow progression. Where are you at right now? And let's do this tomorrow. Let's do this next week. Let's do this the week after. And it protects me from injury, and it allows me to grow and consistently improve every metric that I'm measuring.
For sure, for sure. And I love that saying. I think a lot of people have been like, what the fuck do you mean by that?
Yeah.
It's like, why the fuck do I want to go slow? Like, so like I started like using optimize to go fast. But you're entirely right. Like it's that maintenance of momentum. Yeah, if we're going too fast, we're not going to sustain the pace. If we're going too slow, we're not going to gain any ground. So we're constantly finding that flow state where we've got this happy medium,
Yeah.
and that's the sweet spot. So
I
that
will tell you, I have cursed Coach Chin's name very violently during some of my interval runs. Go slow to get fast. Are you out of your freaking mind?
yeah, we like to run fast as well. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Intervals is another thing for me too. They used to scare the hell out of me, Matt. I mean, oh my God, the idea of running fast. This body did not seem to really want to adapt to a fast run. It was really, really tough for me. I think I started with either 200 meters or 400-meter runs, and it was like ridiculous. Like that was it. That was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, I think. And I literally, I had to do my time trial, or not time trial. I had to do my VO2 max 1 mile runs this week. I couldn't wait. I had it on the calendar at 5 o'clock, and I went up at lunchtime and talked to my wife. I was like, I'm going to run in a few minutes. I can't wait. I want to do it. I'm ready. Like I couldn't wait to strap those stride pods on and let's see the output. Let's see what I can do. And man, my attitude going into that run just felt so good. And it was 3 1 mile runs with 2 minute walks. With the 2 minute walks, I got my second fastest 5K ever. And I was like, are you kidding me? I just did a time trial 2 weeks ago and had my fastest time trial ever. And now I put two 2 minute walks in between my miles, and I end up getting like 1 minute off that pace. Like it's like it is unlocked right now. Like I can't wait to see my next sprint. I want to do it again.
And this is a
But
great place to operate from.
I used to curse him bad though. I'm telling you, man. Oh, go slow to get fast. But why am I not going slow right now? That sucks.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to talk about pacing on an upcoming podcast because it's super important. I was actually speaking to a couple of the racers from the weekend, and I'll give some context to kind of prelude that podcast. But if you look at like the top racers, so elite racers, they don't walk on races. Yeah, they're going hard. They're going super hard and harder than many of us, but they're still operating within their own like limits, yeah, and operating to their potential, and that's like by pacing themselves and the way that they're trained and conditioned. If they went over that, obviously they're going to have to break down to a walk because they've blown up. So it's exactly the same for open heat races, age group category. Like if you pace yourself properly, theoretically you should never have to walk unless it's a ridiculous percent incline. So that's a huge part of it. But it's exactly the same in our training sessions as well. I was actually watching a guy run earlier, and I was like, "Wow, this dude is flying!" But every time I see him run, he's flying. So it's like, does he just run at this pace all the time? And he looked like he had good form, and he was fast, and looked like he was enjoying himself and whatnot. But I think the point I'm trying to get at here is like each training session has a precise outcome, and the paces, the heart rates, the timings, whatever it is, are all there for a set reason to make you pace yourself, to make sure that you can get the most out of that training session and benefit beyond that once you're recovered. And that would be part of the process. Like if we done a podcast on, I think it was something along the lines of why don't I like to run or something like that, or reasons that I hate running. And it's environmental, but it's also the way we approach it. If we think every time we go out there, we've got to run full throttle, I wouldn't fucking enjoy that. My body would be hurting. So I think part of it for you is like you've improved, you've progressed, you've become stronger, more conditioned, but also you've become a smarter athlete and know how to pace yourself and apply yourself in those. And then you go out and do a VO2 max session and hit a 5K PB in a training session. Great. It's a big, big difference. So speaks
Yeah.
volumes.
Yeah. Mindset going into it is everything. You know, my first runs, my first runs on the team, I think, it was the request was, I want you to do like 3 miles and don't go over zone 2 or something. And like I would run like 100 yards and I'm in zone 3. So I'd have to walk. And Matt would ask me how much, Coach Tim would ask me how much I walked. I was like 80%, like almost all of it. Like every time I would hit any kind of incline, I'm going up to 130, 140 beats per minute. And now, like, I could almost do a 5K without ever getting out of zone 2, like never stop. It's in the beginning, I had this attitude of anxiety and grief, like just almost anger. Like I hated the idea of running. That I even my mindset was racing my heart. Now, like I look forward to my runs. This is my favorite part of my workout regimens. I really do enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's a huge shift to be looking forward to what you're doing. This is a two-way thing though, isn't it? Because if you've got a program that you're like, oh wow, I'm actually not liking the look of that training session, are you going to get the most out of it? But I think all of it comes down to understanding through education. It's like, why are we doing this precise training session? What does it do? How does it benefit me? What does that translate to over time? And understanding the bigger picture. So I think it's asking clarifying questions, but then equally, yeah,
Well, I
getting
think that
the
these
education.
coaching calls are priceless, though, dude. Like, you know, I think the program without the coaching calls would not be as effective. I think the coaching calls are just constantly reinforcing all of those messages and the importance of certain things, whether it's recovery or fueling or mindset or whatever it is. I mean, all they, these guys take a different way to approach it every single time they go over the topic, and I learn something new every single time. And that those learning nuggets that we're getting on these calls are just critically important to the overall progression.
Yeah, it sure is. And I can add some context to this. So Bob Smith has been with us about 6 months, and he's just on the basic OD plan with the calls. And I remember actually soon after he signed up, I think he was maybe only like 6 weeks into the program, and he was like, "Fucking these VO2 max sessions are absolutely killer." And I was like, "He's like, I'm almost dying at the end of them." I was like, "Okay, well let's talk about how you're actually breaking these down." And basically, he was just running full throttle, like basically sprinting. I was like, "No, dude, like." You need to do it this way, like read the instructions and here's how I do it and whatever else. And as soon as he had that shift, he was like, oh, I don't need to absolutely annihilate myself in this. Actually, I just need to achieve this. And that was a game changer because he was only managing to achieve like 2 VO2 max intervals. And then by the end of this adaptation, he was managing to get like 4 or 5 out of it. So it's like just by optimizing the intensity, you
Yeah.
not only get more out of the interval, you get more out of the total session, which means more progress, more adaptation. So
Yeah, I've pumped out of lots of things. My first time trial was in February this year, and it was an actual 5K race. And I knew what my pace was supposed to be, and I went out harder than I was trying to keep up with the runners, the people that run 5Ks all the time. And I completely gassed out. And then every time trial after that, I think for a long time, anytime I was doing a VO2 max or whatever it was, um, I wasn't able to make it to the end. And I think it was frustrating to Chin because I think he knew what I was doing. He kept telling me, like, don't go out so hard. You got to save yourself. But I'm looking at RP8 and I'm interpreting that as I've got to go out 80% as fast as I possibly can. And I got to hold that pace. Um, and it just, until I understood pacing and how to get there and how to build up to it and watch my heart rate and pay attention to my heart rate and adjust to my heart rate, I didn't know how to get through a session. And I
I think
still struggle with it. I mean, I think it was 2 or 3 5, like, the 5 4 3 2 1 5 minute, 4 minute, 3 minute. I hate those. Um, but I couldn't do. I tanked on the two. Like, I completely tanked. I mean, I hit a wall, and it was tough. Um, but there's a body awareness thing that happens with that too. Um, the running coach that I saw was helping me to understand how I'm quad loading. My running is coming 80% from my quads. That the hamstrings aren't engaging in the way that they should. And now that I understand that, during my VO2 maxes, I can actually focus on that pulling motion, not just the recovery motion, but the pulling motion that engages those hamstrings better. Um, and my stride mechanics improve, and my muscle distribution changes, which allows me to balance that energy better over the interval.
yeah.
But body awareness is critical. We have to know what it is we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it and all that kind of stuff. If you want to improve, you got to understand it all.
Mm. Yeah, it allows us to get so much more out of ourselves. Yeah, without absolutely annihilating ourselves. Because yeah, how much compliance do we have to a program that yeah we don't want to like do certain training sessions in it when it's actually critical, but actually it can be all a lot easier when we have a more of an understanding of how to approach things. So yeah, I think it's super valuable what you've just mentioned there, because it's like how a session is interpreted from the only individual's perspective versus actually how it should be done. I mean, there's going to be variations in that of how the individual can approach that, and yeah, but ultimately it comes back to the education, the understanding, and yet again, the more we understand, the more bought in we are. Therefore, the more we're going to go for it. So it's not like here's this really disgusting session that you're going to run at VO2 max pace, 9 out of 10 RPE for 3 minutes. You're like, fucking, that sounds awful. Versus, okay, well, if we focus on this over time, this is going to push your VO2 max up, which is actually going to help with the development of this, and this. And over time, this will translate to this on the track, and you'll be able to do this in your time trials, and this will put you here in races. It's like, oh, actually, now I understand this, versus this is fucking disgusting. Fuck this. Why is this on my training program? I feel like shit doing it.
Exactly. I don't see myself sprinting a beast, so why am I doing this? No, man, it comes back down to the 7 levels again. Every single time you go into that pain cave and you got to do something tough, you've got to fall back on your whys. You got to know what it is you're doing, why you're doing it. I get down into the really, really mechanics of it all, probably too much. But that's just how my brain works. By focusing on the body mechanics and the glutes and the hamstrings and getting down into that level of detail, that actually puts my brain to sleep on some of the negative noise that happens.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. Yeah, it's given us clarity, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Awesome, man. Well, it's definitely been a brilliant conversation again, and no doubt we'll have you back on soonish as well. Is there anything final you want to like go over, discuss, or share before we start wrapping up, Shawn?
No, these calls are always really enlightening because a lot of times this is the first time these words have left my mouth. Like, it's like I don't talk about this a lot. I think that these calls, whether I'm listening to them or you've invited me to one, I think they're always really helpful for me. Um, it gives me clarity on what I'm doing here, and kind of gives me the fuel to keep going. Um, I just appreciate this team so much. I mean, there's so many, you know, intangible things that comes from just being around other people that are striving to get better. Um, there's people that are in my situation. There's people that are elite athletes, and it seems like there's everything in between. Um, but we all have this mindset that is common to us all of just wanting to push and being willing to push. And I think that that is so healthy to be around. Like I think I told you on the last call, um, this isn't about Spartan for me anymore. This is about the greater metaphor of doing hard shit because we can. Because hard shit doesn't mean we don't do it. Hard shit means we do it, right? I mean, that's the idea. The more hard shit we do, the more resilient we become in life. And there's really nothing in life that we can't tackle, we can't get through.
And it becomes even easier once we're armed with the right tools to tackle those obstacles, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can go into an obstacle believing you can't and you won't. And you can go into an obstacle knowing that, like, I've done this before. I've done harder things than this, and I'll get through this one.
For sure. Definitely. We're going to do another call on this as well, because we're going to talk about like kit and equipment, the training, the value of training, and some other stuff, because it's really interesting, like focusing on, well, the impact of the training that makes and the development of that, but then also all the other little things we can do to supplement that to get like the 1% changes in numerous areas to fortify that as well. So all is good. But appreciate you, Shawn, and yeah, it was great to see you in person in West Virginia. Finally in the flesh.
Yeah. What are you thinking for next year? Or do you have an idea yet where we're going to go?
I mean, there's so much opportunities. There's so much choice, isn't there? This is the thing. It's just depending on what time of the year we want to come back. I feel like I'd like to do Texas or maybe Colorado. Yeah, I feel like I want to go more central to west. Personally, for me, because the past like 3 years I've been to kind of East Coast, which I love and really enjoy. But it'd be nice to explore different venues. I don't know what are you feeling?
I looked at all my B races. Let's see. For sure. Well, that's East Coast, East Coast, East Coast. Everything I'm doing is in the East Coast, East Coast or Midwest. I will go west for a team event though, and I love Colorado. If you've never been to Colorado, it should be on your bucket list. It's truly beautiful. The altitude adds a whole new component to it, which is really, really, really fun. But wherever we get together as a team, I will try to get there.
Amazing. All right. Well, maybe we got 2 votes in the basket for Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado would be great.
Yeah, it'd be good. Yeah, I know a number of other guys are itching to come out to the States as well. I always endeavour to bring as many of the UK guys, but we had a good turnout this year.
Well, I think a few of us have talked and would be open to doing Mexico. I think that would be fun, and I think at least a couple of us can come over to the UK. I would love to do a UK race next year.
Yeah, it would be epic. It'd be epic. I think they've released all the venues. It would just be trying to find out what venue would be the best. I'm looking at a lot of the Spanish races at the moment, because it's great having the same venues for Spartan, but yeah, they're all very unique and testing. But when you've done them for like 3 or 4 years, for me, I'd rather go to Spain and get some sunshine and go and run in Mallorca or Barcelona or somewhere like that, over doing that, or head to one of the European mountain races where you just like looking at the beauty of these mountains.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the world is ours, and I think 2027 as well. I want to go do Morzine and probably back to Sparta at the end of the year as well. So bit of time off, but yeah.
Yep. Sounds good.
Sweet, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for your time. Thanks for the value you've brought to this, and yeah, thanks for the value you bring to the community as well. And yeah, onwards and upwards.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you very much.
Cheers, Shawn. Have a great day, man. Bye-bye. That is it for today's episode of the Obstacle Dominator podcast. Thank you for listening. If you've gained value from this episode or any others, all we simply ask is you share that with one other person. This one simple share could be the breakthrough that they need to get unstuck and start making progress again, and support more athletes to become healthier, happier, stronger and faster human beings. If you feel called, please leave a review, tap the stars, give us a rating, head over to YouTube and subscribe, or just simply follow the show. These simple action steps go such a long way in helping us reach more athletes over time, and would love for you to be part of that. Proximity is power. If you are an athlete that's ready to take your performance up a level, then join us over on the OCR School. This is a community where you can surround yourself with the right people as you learn and as you rise. Learn from athletes who are not just talking the talk, but walking the walk, getting results, body and mind, everyone from first-time finishers to podium winners and champions. Until next time, keep training hard, keep living prepared, and keep dominating the obstacles in life and in competition.